The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? What did the Russian oligarch's son say when asked if he wanted to go to the nudie bar? Yes, baby, strippers. Amber and Scott discuss Anora. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Yes, baby. Strippers.
So, yes, this episode we are talking about Anora. It is about Annie, a young sex worker from Brooklyn whose life takes an unexpected turn when she meets and impulsively marries Vanya, the impetuous son of a Russian billionaire. However, when Vanya's parents catch wind of the union, they send their henchmen to annul the marriage, setting off a wild chase through the streets of New York.
That was effed up.
So I have to say, this movie was 2 hours and 19 minutes, and was supposed to be somewhat of a comedy. And I thought, gosh, you never see comedies that long. And I usually, anything that breaches that 2 hour mark, I usually dread a little bit. But this movie never dragged. I was engaged for the entire 2 hours and 19 minutes.
Yeah, no, this was a very good movie.
Yeah, I was delightfully surprised that, like, wow, it even where parts you would think potentially you might tune out where they're looking for Vanya when he runs off. It was engaging the entire 2 hours and 19 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a little... I spent the first good 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes of the movie asking myself over and over, where are they going with this? What are they doing? And then, obviously, it became clear what they were doing, but...
Yeah, so the movie starts off basically in a upscale nudie bar where Annie, short for Anora, which is our movie title, is her name. They have high rollers that come in and they go to private rooms and they get lap dances where they can look and not touch. And
some of them are touching.
And Annie works there and she speaks a little bit of Russian. So she ultimately gets introduced to a party of Russians, of which Vanya is one of them, saying, oh, entertain our high roller Russians here and show them a good time. So she does, and Vanya, who is 21 years old, basically says, hey, what does it take to hang out with you outside of the club? She comes over, shows him a good time, makes some cash, and ends up doing that a couple of times. And
she showed her time.
Yeah. The first, maybe 45 minutes was a lot of butts.
There was a lot of sexual intercourse.
Yeah, a lot. So... ultimately, after they have a couple of trysts, Vanya says, hey, how would you like to be my girlfriend for a week? I'll pay you $10,000. They settle on $15,000, and she moves in for the week. And to her, he lives in this mansion with an amazing view. And
yeah, her life is substantially better for a week. Oh, and she gets $15,000 cash.
Yeah, so they travel all around. They go to parties. They do drugs. They have sex all over the place until ultimately someone says, hey, I got some really good drugs in Las Vegas.
Ketamine!
Let's go to Las Vegas. So while they're in Las Vegas, they're having a great time. And Vanya basically says he has to go home soon because he has to go work for his dad. And if he could only marry someone in America and become an American, he wouldn't have to leave. And they get married.
Well, what does that have to do with the price of vodka in Russia?
Yeah, so she has obviously hit the jackpot. She has found a Russian millionaire. She has a rock that's probably worth more than most people's houses. And she is living the high life. She gets to quit her job at the sex factory.
The sex factory?
And live in this mansion doing whatever the heck she wants with her new husband. But when push comes to shove, he's a 21-year-old. He is super immature. And when his parents get wind of this and the Armenian men that are basically the collective that are meant to watch Vanya and keep him on track are sent to address this issue and make sure that the couple gets an annulment. And Annie basically says, hey, we're in love. And Vanya goes running out of the house, running down the street, never to be seen again, at least not for most of the movie.
This was very interesting watching this in a theater in an area that has a lot of Armenians in it, because I think there were places where other people in the theater were laughing that in most areas of the U.S. they wouldn't be laughing, but because it's certain things about Armenians that they were. I was just very amused by the geographical humor.
So a good chunk of the film involves the Armenian henchman and Annie looking for Vanya because they have now threatened and coerced and saying, you must get an annulment. It is not acceptable for this high end of important, affluent family to have a prostitute, a sex worker, such as yourself, as a daughter-in-law or anywhere connected to our family. This will be annulled. And Annie all the time is thinking, okay, well, we just have to find Vanya and we'll work all this out and we'll live happily ever after. And Vanya, meanwhile, finds himself at the sex palace where Annie worked, willing to take a lap dance from Annie's worst enemy. He's a 21-year-old kid. He does not have any brain cells. He does not give a crap about this marriage. It was just something fun and easy to do that got him to stay in America longer.
Yes, baby, strippers.
Am I wrong?
No, actually, I do think you are wrong a little, slightly. I mean, not about the 21-year-old with no brain cells. That's absolutely 100% true. I do think that he was into the marriage as so long as the marriage was easy.
Yeah.
As long as he could continue to be who he was and do what he did, I think he was fine with it. As soon as it became difficult, though, peace out.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would I do if I was a sex worker and I found a way out? I would probably do exactly what Annie did and jump on that train to Easy Street so I would not be making my living.
Are you kidding? I might have blown him.
Yes, he was more than happy to have a great life for himself and his friends with his parents' money. So if you have an opportunity to partake of some of that, although I am reminded of the film Blink Twice, where we also had a character who had lots of money who was willing to shower his friends and acquaintances with it, and then actually track them down and rape them. So you never know. Things aren't always as they seem.
That is true. Yeah, and I really do wonder how much of an illusion she was under, like with this whole "he loves me." I think he did love her to a point, and she did love him to a point.
Listen, you love everybody after a couple of weeks in. It's easy to love people a couple of weeks in.
Oh yeah, of course. But
and if they have money, it's super easy to love them a couple of weeks in.
I do think that there was a portion of her though that did understand the circumstances behind this marriage, and she was even a little incredulous that he wanted to go there with marriage. She was like, You're effing with me. You're kidding. And I don't think she believed it until she was standing in front of a minister and they both said, I do.
Yeah, it was very similar to a Russian Pretty Woman.
Yeah, I was thinking that the whole time too. I was like, she's getting Pretty Woman.
Yeah, so a good chunk of the film is all the Armenian henchmen and Annie trying to find Vanya so they can get an annulment, which ultimately they do under duress, or at least for Annie. And at that point, Anya was like, well, too bad, so sad, too bad it didn't work out, whatever, not a big deal. And meanwhile, Annie is over here. She's quit her job. She had moved into the mansion. She had this very expensive ring on her hand. And she was, I do believe, shocked that he wasn't fighting for this marriage like she was.
I think mild shock. Again, I think there's part of her that understood who she was dealing with there.
I don't know. She definitely seemed hopeful that when they found Vanya, they'd work it all out.
Oh yeah, no, she was definitely hopeful because that's her gravy train. The girl did not want to let that gravy train go. I'm not saying she was a gold digger, but listen, if the gold comes up to you and gets in your lap, then you're not digging. It's there, and you don't want to lose that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's interesting. She was a very likable character, and the premise of someone saving you from yourself, from your life. I mean, I think a lot of people can identify with that, having maybe a period or a phase in their lives where maybe they desperately wanted someone to save them. And it's so nice when you feel like, wow, there's actually some relief, some hope that things might not turn out the way that you thought they would, that they could actually turn out better.
Yeah, I mean, she was in a real rags to riches story there. And I mean, she still did okay out of it, but it's not like she ended up with life-changing money.
Yeah, and she was, at the end, she was sad. She was definitely upset over everything that had happened. And I think it's because although he was easy to love and the circumstance made her life so much easier, I think she really thought this was going to be her life. And to have it all ripped away under the threat of overbearing parents and a husband who didn't seem to have any interest in fighting for her.
Yeah. But like, if you couldn't tell that she had issues throughout the movie, it became abundantly clear at the end of the movie what kind of issues she had.
What kind of issues did she have?
The guy who was holding her down forcibly against her will, and she showed just nothing but vitriol towards, as she should.
Right, when she was trying to run away with Vanya.
Like, basically ends up banging the guy in the car and then smacking him around afterwards. I wasn't sure if she was trying to, like, set him up for a rape thing, or if she just was completely screwed up in the head. And I think in the end, it was clear she was just completely screwed up in the head.
I think she had been through a lot, and it was just a lot. So that's what I got from it. I mean, obviously, I don't want to cast too much judgment here because it's not something that I know about, and I don't want to proclaim that I do, but it's likely a lot of women who end up in sex worker type positions have something in their history, something in their past that has put them in that job. So, obviously you're dealing with any issues or baggage that you might have pertaining to that career that you find yourself in. And then toward the end of the movie, she had been through a lot, and then ultimately realizing the guy that she thought she was, going to have this amazing life with was just basically shrugged and was like, oh, well, didn't work out. Nice knowing you, kind of an attitude. So it was a lot for anyone, I think, to take on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, God bless her. She was a trooper through the whole thing. She until she knew that she had no choice, she was fighting and fighting and fighting. And even when she really didn't have a choice, she still often was fighting.
Fighting to keep the marriage.
Fighting to keep the marriage, fighting to basically fuck you everyone else who's trying to stand in her way.
Yeah. So what would I do? What would I do if I was Annie? Well, I think given Annie's lot in life, she was probably doing the best that she could. But if I were Annie and I found an escape, it would be really hard to not take that escape because it opens up a life that seemed beyond reach.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, listen, like, you don't get a lot of opportunities like that in life. And that was a huge one. And again, it's not like she was trying to go gold digging.
And she liked him. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm with this repulsive person that makes me sick to my stomach, but this is my ticket out of Sex Palace. She really seemed to like him. And he was fun, and they did fun things. And I think was likely the problem. And that was the extent of Vanya's capabilities, is just to do fun things. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm doing the same thing she's doing if I'm in that situation, because, I mean, it seemed like she basically was getting to do what she wanted to do and get paid for it as well.
Yeah.
So, final?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like I have any pearls of wisdom or great insight here because, again, I know things are much more complicated than they might seem when it comes to people who find themselves in the position of being any sort of sex worker.
Well, and I actually want to make a differentiation, a 2024 differentiation. I feel like there's a difference between live sex worker and like OnlyFans type sex worker, because one of them basically is dealing with the public at large and the other one is not. And sometimes you could be a sex worker online without well, many times without even actually having sex. Or if you are, it could be like just with your husband or your boyfriend, and people just pay to see videos and stuff like that. So I think there is a differentiation between live sex worker and online sex worker, but she was a live sex worker, which I completely agree with you. I don't think you get to where that is without there being some baggage.
Yeah. So I guess much love to the character Annie. I feel like she earned the money she ultimately walked away with, which was just a measly $10K and the ring that one of the guys hung on to and slipped her on the side.
Well, I mean, she got other money throughout the thing, like the $15,000 from the week, and I believe he was tipping rather well prior to that. So I mean, she probably took home somewhere in the neighborhood of $30K plus. But again, good for the work, but not like you're retiring off that. Like she's probably going back to she's probably not going back to that club, but she's probably going to another club, being like, "Yep, I'm back on the stripper pole again."
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.